Everyone, welcome back. Transfers explained. Arsenal are getting busy. And not everyone, I was going to say will love, not everyone loves the business Arsenal are doing, but they're certainly active. This is one thing, Ben, that I've had a real issue with, is the kind of narrative that Arsenal aren't doing business. I'm not really going to war with people who are Gyökeres over Sesko or Sesko over Gyökeres. I'm not even going towards June. It's on far too chill at this time of year for football. But I'm certainly really against the narrative that Arsenal haven't been busy. And I think recently with the Eze links too, a lot has happened. This will obviously be a breakdown on Mosquera for the first bit, Norgaard for the last bit. I'll get a quick take on the Eze rumours. But Arsenal got busy in the window. And Ben, we kind of thought this was coming at some point, and maybe a little bit quicker than a lot of people expected after what had been a slow start. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? It's almost like Arsenal started slower than we expected, so lulled into a false sense of security, and now it's like, oh, it's all going on. So, I mean, how are you, and what do you make of the last week of transfer news?
Yeah, good. It's doing good. It's chaotic that last week. I mean, it was like we got a few weeks worth of news all in 1 week. You know, there's just so much coming out. Even the stuff with Eze towards the end of the week, and then stuff like Kepa being confirmed. Norgaard, like, wasn't even a rumor before last week, and it was like rumor. Looking at him, no, this is happening. It's advanced. It's basically agreed. Like all in 1 day, basically. But yeah, it's interesting. There's some interesting players there, and I think these deals have looked like they'll be done quite quickly because of the smaller fees, and they're more like the squad players, and they're importantly not too expensive. That's going to mean, because people are complaining, oh, we're not signing attackers, but they should look at this as a positive. Like, the fees are quite low, so that means we're probably looking to spend like 90% of the budget in attack and Zubimendi. So yeah, it's exciting for me, but yeah, let's wait and see.
You raise a really good point there, because there was a world in which Garcia was 25 million, Hato's 45 million minimum. Then you've got maybe a 20 million pound Agume, or a DM of that kind of hype around him. And what have I just listed there? 25 plus 45 is 70 plus another 20. So there's maybe 90 million pounds going on backups.
Yeah.
And now I'm not saying they weren't good players, but what we've got is 5 million for Kepa, 10 million for Norgaard, that's 15, and maybe 15 to 20, let's call it 20 million. It's just night and day, right? It's so much money saved that maybe allows us to do an Eze as well as everything else we're looking to do. So I'm going to get your take on that very quickly. I had a theory. I did a video on the Goonerverse too. By the way, a big thank you to 10,000 subscribers on that channel. Thank you to everyone that happened today on the back of Eze and the links from Fabrizio Romano. So a big thank you to everyone who did subscribe to that channel. If you haven't, then it's all here on the page, so go check it out. I have a theory that Arsenal might actually move ahead with the Eze stuff, with the Sesko Gyökeres stuff, and that Rodrigo is seen as a completely unique deal in itself, almost like if we can get rid of a Martinelli or Trossard, and there's the opportunity to sign Rodrigo, which I don't think is an opportunity that comes up till August, then I think Arsenal will ensure they're in a position to do that if they can, but ultimately aren't actually planning for that to be the signing they do, because there's just so much time before we have any clarity on whether that's doable. Do you think there's some merit to my theory there?
Possibly. I think I've always felt we needed 3 attackers of some sort, attack-minded players.
I'm so glad you said it. I'm so glad you said it.
I don't think 2 is enough. And I think especially because striker-wise, apart from Isaac, who's not happening, there aren't many ready-made solutions. And it's not me complaining about Šeško, or I think it's going to be Šeško personally, but as others think Gyökeres as well. But I think either they're not like, when you look at Šeško, he's someone that is about what he could become. It's not like he's going to straight away be this like 30, 40 goal Premier League goal striker or whatever. And then so it puts a lot on the left winger, but then also there's like some other areas where I think, either it's a Saka backup, or can you get someone who's like attacking midfielder / winger hybrid? And I've wanted that since Smith Rowe, since we sold Smith Rowe. And I was like, I think it was a right decision to sell him, but his profile, we still needed that, like a ball carrying attacking midfielder who could play out wide. And I had a list of a few that I liked last summer, which were Doué, Xavi Simons, Eze, and Gibbs White. And Doué, obviously, he was number one, but he's gone to PSG. And Simons and Eze are still there. Gibbs White, I don't think will happen. I think they'll ask for big money for him. So maybe, yeah, I think there might be something in it that whether it's Eze or someone else that we might go for a third attacker. I think if that was going to happen, you would need to spend less on the backups, and we've done that. So that kind of points towards that's a positive sign that it might happen. And I think if we really want to compete, like the stuff that City have done and Liverpool have done, like we're not, Rodrigo's a statement signing, but you need another, I think, or Eze or Rodrigo are statements, but you need another on top of that.
I keep saying two things. I keep saying all the time. Firstly, we want depth for Bukayo Saka, right? Ideally. But I don't care if that comes in the form of signing Leroy Sané or redefining Waneri's role in the squad to be cover for him as well as Ødegaard. But I feel more comfortable with Waneri covering Ødegaard if someone like Eze can cover Ødegaard too. Yeah. So you can just shift pieces around. Like the puzzle can just move around slightly. It doesn't have to be, well, we need a left-footed right winger done. Waneri was more, I thought Waneri looked great when he played on the right. And it didn't, Old Trafford, he wasn't brilliant. I'm not saying it always worked for him, but largely I was really impressed with him out there. And why can't we just say, well, as Ethan Waneri, you don't have to cover for Ødegaard. That doesn't have to be your role in the squad necessarily. You might play with him. You might play with Eze. You might play instead of Saka. You might play with Saka. But these are the kind of options I want. So if that comes in the form of signing an Eze, then great. The second thing I keep saying is everyone, I shouldn't say everyone because there'll be so many thousands of people who don't think this way. But I don't think Arsenal solve the problem or the problems they have by just adding a 30-goal a season striker. I really don't think that solves as much as people think. Does it help? Absolutely. But I don't think it solves much because I think we have issues with chance creation. I also think we have issues winning games when we're not at our best. Yeah. I honestly think when Arsenal pick up 3 points in the league, I think in about 96% of those games they've played well. Whereas I think Liverpool and Man City can play well in 70% of their wins. With Arsenal, there's just something about us. Like, if we play well, we're brilliant. But if we're off it, we're off it. We're not very good. And Eze, Rodrigo, Saka, these are players that can win you games. Dare I say, when they're at their best, Declan Rice and Ødegaard can have those moments. We just didn't see much of it from Ødegaard recently. So that's the other thing. It's not just, sign a 30-goal season striker. We need match winners. We need players that can do something and nothing. We need players that can win a game. Eze won Palace the FA Cup, scoring 2 brilliant goals at Wembley in the semi-finals and the final. And I'm not saying that's the only reason Palace won, but my word, it made a difference having a player that could take that moment under that pressure and guide it into the back of the net so comfortably. And I think Arsenal need that too.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. I think one of the things I like about someone like Eze, I mean, we'll do something on him as well, but I think without going into too much detail, it's like the age, the personality, like for me, he's one of my favorite just people in the sport. Like as a person, he's just like amazing. Like he's someone that you can just imagine getting along with everyone. And having someone like that in the squad is so important, but also his whole story, I like those players that it's not been easy. They've taken time and a lot of hard work and persistence to get to where they are, and that defines how you are as a player. You take those opportunities when you get 1 or 2 or half a chance. But also, like for the younger guys, if you go and get someone who's also 18, 19, well, it kind of blocks the pathway for someone like Waneri and like Stallman coming through as well. But Eze is someone that he can naturally fit in there, and he's a fan of the club and everything. So yeah, it would be great. But let's see.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one.
About it,
yeah, there was just a little too much in the reports from Ben Jacobs to Alex Crook to Fabrizio Romano, all people I consider reliable. I thought, Why have you all got hold of the information? That just makes me feel like there's a little something brewing there. But let's hope, because I want a 10 in this squad. I want a player of his quality and of his particular profile with his skill set that I think Arsenal lacks. Let's see. Okay, so we did say this was going to be essentially 20 minutes on Norgaard and 20 minutes on Mosquera. In fact, let's start with Mosquera because I think people are probably more familiar with Norgaard, or maybe not. What do I know? 6'3", 20 years old, right-footed, but I remember him as a player you referenced when you were talking about players that could play both sides of centre-backs. They could, whether they're right or left-footed, they could cover. And Dean Howson was someone we looked at. Mosquera, if I'm not mistaken, I think for Spain and maybe Valencia has played left centre-back as a right-footer. But ultimately, comps tell me quick, tell me decent on the ball, likes to switch a pass, but I don't know if that was just the comp maker who just found a load of them. But this is why we have you. We have the expertise. So, tell us about the player, man. Firstly, what kind of centre-back is he, before we go into how good he is and how, what kind of player are we looking at?
Yeah, I think one way to explain is, so he was born in Valencia, but he's got Colombian parents. And I think when you look at his style as a defender, he's more of a typical South American centre-back rather than a Spanish centre-back, or the traits that you'd associate with a Spanish centre-back. So he's a wide centre-back, so he's more play on the right side of a 3 or a 2. He's very good at defending wide areas. And obviously he's right-footed, but he's got decent ability on his left. He passes with his left a lot. He's not like completely both-footed, but he's someone that he's like Saliba, to be honest, in a way that he can play on the left side. He doesn't look too uncomfortable over there, but he's definitely more right-sided. In terms of what he's like as a player, he's a defender who just loves to defend first and foremost. Like, he's got that aggression, very front-footed, very aggressive. And he's one of those type of defenders, a bit like what we've got with Gabriel, where he will throw his body at the ball to stop, to block a shot, or there's a real desire to block those shots. And if you're going to compare him to someone in the squad who he's most similar to, it would be Gabriel. But kind of when we first got him, he's got some of the same weaknesses as Gabriel when we first got him, but he's also very mature for his age. He's physically really imposing, and that's one of the standout things for him. It's his ground duels, really good. He's got the highest ground duel success rate in La Liga. I think it was about 70%.
And that's why Arteta's signing him.
Yeah, exactly. We know he loves that. And, even like Lewis Skelly's another one where, despite being so young, physically, his ground duel rate was like 7 in the 70s as well. I think at one point it was even 80 plus. So you've got one of those guys there where, he's 21, but he plays like he's a lot older. But there's still obviously things to work on, but it's a really good profile here. And we'll go into more. But he's a top player, and I think the right type of player that we need in the squad in terms of a backup for Saliba, with Tomiyasu not really being there in harsh way. I've always said we need to kind of act like he's not there and replace him, whether he goes or not, because there's too much load on Saliba at the moment. So it's definitely interesting signing for us.
I mean, at the risk of people clicking off the podcast, because I've said it so many times, whether it be here, Forever Arsenal, whatever, I don't think we can rely on White, Timber and Tomiyasu next season as much as people might think we can. Because I honestly think you can rule out Tomiyasu for half that campaign. And then you're talking about two players that have had surgery, they both had significant surgery in the last 2 years. Yep. And when you're talking about one playing right back and the other being cover for the right back and the right centre back, I just think that's still too much. Partey could play at right back at one point, now he's gone. So, it's not that I think it's crucial we added a Mosquera. I think if we'd finished the window without adding a centre back, I would have thought bit disappointing. Provided we kept Kivior and Zinchenko, we probably have enough. But I'm really encouraged that Arsenal want to add someone there and think that numbers are necessary and are going for the 20-year-old young potential, because I think we do have to, whether people like it or not, we have to prepare for Saliba's exit. That day is coming. It will be, in my opinion, a year or two. I lean towards 2 years, because it wouldn't surprise me if he saw out his contract. And if he signs a new deal, I'd be amazed if Real Madrid paid the kind of fee we're looking for exactly next year. But I think that day is coming for Saliba, probably in 2 years. And I think Arsenal are right to sort of future-proof and protect in that position and get someone ready. And there's probably like a really nice progression there for him. At 22, he's a starting centre-back in the Premier League. So probably all works out for him. Arsenal never leave themselves short at the back. That's the one thing I'll say. I mean, they really do. And one thing that dawned on me was, wow, we really went to the Bernabeu with Timber wasn't starting the season before because of injury. Saliba, Kivior wasn't starting the season before, and Lewis Skelly wasn't starting the season before. And we were all very comfortable with that back four going to the Bernabeu. That just says that it's one area of the team that Arteta, I think, to be honest, drives it. He absolutely doesn't want to be left short at the back. And I think there's one in which we sign Mosquera and Hato, by the way.
Yeah,
I think if Kivior wants to I think we'll do Hato as well.
Yeah, and whether it's him or another left back, I think we will. And there's been a lot of like complaints in general of people like, why are we signing another defender? And then people saying, like, rival fans as well, probably out jealousy more than anything, just saying like, oh, why is he going there or whatever. When you look at our squad, the goal position wise and depth wise is to have two per position. So right back, White and Timber, we've already said. Left centre back, for me, right, this is how I would like for the squad, what I would like personally. Calafiori for me is a left centre back. He can play left back if you really need to, but he's a left centre back. How he defends in wide areas, what he's like in 1v1s, he's much better centrally and even as a ball carrier through the middle as well. So that then means Gabriel and Calafiori at left centre back. At left back, Lewis Skelly, number one. But everyone else you look at, the biggest problem we've had is too many of our backups are injury prone. So you look, Zinchenko struggled with injuries, Tierney, Calafiori had, but it put more pressure on him to come back and be ready, because everyone else that was there, Tomiyasu, Timber was obviously struggling with an ongoing issue. And then it then meant really that the reliable players, there weren't enough. So then you think, well, so that's Lewis Skelly. I think Kiwior will go. I think he should. Let's see if he does, but I think he should. It's the right time to sell him.
I really like the
Yeah, I think if you can, because of how he's played towards the end of the season, he might not get that same run of games that he did again. So I think now is the best time to sell. If you can get 30 mil plus, it's a good value for him. So then you're looking at that back line. You need a backup for Saliba, then you need a backup left back, and that's where Mosquera and Hato or other players make sense. And I think the important thing is we've got so many areas to address. So you've got to find cheaper ways of doing so. And I can't stress enough, the return investment for a player of this value is very high. Like, if he doesn't become, there's a high chance that he'll become a very, very good centre-back that will be worth north of 50 million. So either you have a player of that value as your backup, or potentially you replace a Saliba. I don't think he's a Saliba replacement personally. Or you've got someone down the line that you can sell for 50 million plus and make a big profit off, and then go get the next big thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's important that you have players that we're going to get increased value off, and he's definitely one.
Yeah, that's fascinating because, okay, so I want to come to that, basically, how good is he? But just a thought that's sort of sprung into my mind as you were talking there is Arsenal do recruit very well at the back. Now, I know there was Tavares once. Okay, I appreciate that. I know Cedric was Arteta's second ever signing. Okay. But when you look at the way that back four has been built, even to those who don't like Zinchenko, no one can say Zinchenko didn't make a massive difference, and that 35 million was absolutely worth it, because he came in and was a huge part of why we challenged the title in that first season. Yeah. So I think everything we've done with that position, whether it's players we've moved there or players we've signed for that position or players we've developed, like Gabriel, who wasn't when we signed him what he is today, and all that, I think Arsenal have managed, and even Saliba. It's so easy to forget that everyone was slagging off Arsenal for not giving Saliba more of a chance. Now, we don't know whether he'd have come in and been ready, but what I do know is we've had 3 phenomenal seasons of William Saliba, and clearly Arsenal did something right. Not all Arsenal, him, his other clubs, the loans, his parents, his hard work, his team, all that would have been part of it. But for sure, Arsenal, got that right, and he says so too. So I'm really encouraged when Arsenal want to add at the back, because they take that area of the pitch really seriously, and they tend to get it right, especially under Mikel Arteta. Under Wenger, we didn't for many years. Yeah. Let's be really honest. I love the guy, and he had one of the best, if not the best, Arsenal back four ever. But we didn't address that position like we should have for a long, long time. Now, on to how good Mosquera is. I think we wanted to ask some really straight questions, like, is he one of the top 5 centre-backs in La Liga now?
In some areas, yes, but generally no, which is fine, because he's 21. Yeah. He literally turned 21 like a couple of days ago.
He did, yeah.
So, we're talking about a player who, he's very experienced for his age. Actually, he's played about 90 games for Valencia in the first team, over 7,000 minutes already, despite only just turning 21. Important to mention a little bit of context with Valencia. They've struggled financially for a while, and they've lent on their academy. It's not that he wasn't good in the first place, but there's a few that have broken through that have been really good, that have been trusted with a lot of minutes. So there's a left centre-back they've got as well, Jarek Gazarowski, and centre midfielder Javi Guerra as well, who we have been linked with. And Berta actually looked at both him and Guerra and Mosquera whilst he was at Atletico. So he's been a long-term fan of the player, and I first watched him, I think it was 2023 when he first started breaking into the team, and the first thing was just like physically and the maturity that he plays with. As like you see with young defenders, normally it's like they're physically imposing or their technical ability is really good, but he's also like his desire to defend, like it's a huge thing for such a young player to really show that. So that was a big thing, but he's, like I said, he's very experienced for his age already, and he's well thought of in Spain. In terms of the youth setups, he's always been at every age group one of the main guys. So yeah, he's definitely a top player there. In terms of the top guys, there are some good centre backs out there. So competitive.
Well, football's a funny old sport, isn't it? Because what do they say? You wait for a bus for hours and then 2 come at once. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Spain has had trouble at centre back since the Puyol PK days. I might be wrong. I know they've had Laporte, but now suddenly it's at Howson and Mosquera are sort of making their way, and it's just sort of quite funny how football can work like that. Yeah,
no, it's funny. I did a thread about it last season or last summer, I think, about their younger generation of centre backs, because there's Kabasi as well at Barcelona, obviously, who for me, I think on the ball, when forget for his age, in general, on the ball is the best centre back in the world. On the ball, he's ridiculous. But then it's him or Bastoni really, but it's close. But yeah, so there's him, there's Dean Howson, there's Mosquera, there's Jarek, who I mentioned previously as well. There's all.
What about the Real Madrid centre back, Asensio?
So he's a little bit older.
Okay.
Yeah, so but he's there's potential there as well. The interesting thing with Madrid, they've got another couple in their academy who actually their for me, like I've watched them and I watched Asensio before. They're on another level to him. So there's one called Juan Martinez, Joan Martinez, and then Diego Aguado. He's a left-footed, left-sided one. So there's two there that they've got coming through. Barcelona have got another one, Andres Cuenca. Like those guys that they've got coming through. That centre-back thing, I don't think is going to be a problem for much longer. Like genuinely, like the quality that is there, mental.
Okay. Saliba, sign the contract, man. You won't even play at Madrid.
Exactly.
Sign the contract. Okay, 5 more minutes on Mosquera, then we'll get into everything Norgaard related, because it is interesting that we did chat about him on the last podcast, so that aged quite well. I want to just throw you some skill sets. I'm literally doing this off the top of my head, and I'm putting you on the spot here, apologies. But I just kind of want to give you I want you to give like a rating out of 10, right? For just how much of these things are like a strength of his and a real quality of his, to try and get an idea for what kind of player we're talking about here. So, heading, what would you give him out of 10?
That's one of his biggest weaknesses aerially. So,
Saliba has the same problem.
Yeah, but
and I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's one of the. I think there's underlying traits and parts about him physically that I think will develop and he will get better aerially. I think how you look at how aggressive he is, he's a naturally more aggressive player, and that tends to translate well aerially if you time it well. Right now, the issue is his timing. He's still an athletic defender. He can jump well. He's 6'2", but definitely aerially is something he needs to work on. And if we've got Gabriel, like there's so many similarities with Gabriel. You just need him to come in and just learn off Gabriel and learn how to create separation in the box like him. And I think there'll be a real that should quickly be something that he improves on. But if you're giving it a rating, I mean, he ranks quite poorly aerially. I'd say like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's generous.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say average, but yeah, it's probably 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Pace, is he quick?
But yeah, he's very quick. He's not like Van de Ven level, but he's very quick. He's an athletic defender. I'd say 8 out of 10.
Okay, interesting. Big strength. I quite like this little game. This because it genuinely helps me. I hope it helps the audience, but it helps me like get an understanding for what are his strengths and weaknesses. Passing.
See, on the ball, he's not Saliba. This is why I said I don't think he's a Saliba replacement. He's not Saliba. Sure. He's more a Gabriel, where there's an intention to break the lines. He's front-footed in that way. He wants to break the lines. He's got a decent range, but he's not someone who would like. He's not someone who's going to wow you with his passing. He's not got like the really good creative passing. He passes with both feet, which makes him a bit more secure. But I think his temperament on the ball needs work, like not being as rushed at times, keeping composed. Passing, I'd give it like a 6, but I think generally he'll get to like an 8, whereas Saliba's like, when you assign in Saliba, he's like a 8, 9, and we get to a 10. So that's the difference there. I think his ceiling, he won't get to like the very top level.
Interesting. Is there anything else on sort of like strength? He's strong, right?
Yeah. So, one thing I would say I've not really gone into in depth of is like defending 1v1 and in defending wide areas. He's like exceptional. Like his ground duels are really good.
We're talking Canate type, because whenever we get 1-1 with Canate, I think, well, that's that done.
Yeah, it's honestly, just got a sense of like, never mind. You know, when you go 1v1 with someone like Canate, you're like, oh yeah, he will sweep up. So yeah, with Mosquera, he's one of those where when I said about him being mature for his age and how he defends, he's very patient in 1v1s. He doesn't go to ground straight away, and he holds his position. He gets low. There's textbook stuff with like 1v1 defending. You put your get down lower, feet close together so you can turn quickly and accelerate quickly. Your shoulders over your toes as well. Stay on your toes. Stay alert. And he's got all of this in the 1v1 scenarios where he just kind of deals with things, and he quickly can get across. Sometimes he doesn't even need to make a tackle. If you think of Gabriel or a Kanate as well, where the attacker will try and get around them, and they're almost like this wall that they can't get around. And as soon as they try to accelerate, they can quickly get in front of them, put their body in between the ball and the player, and just see the ball out, or they can turn away with the ball. And he's really good at that. Someone where not just defending 1v1 in the wide areas, but defending big spaces as well because of how quick he is. So that's a real strength of his. And then timing of the tackles, but the quality of them as well. One of the things I like about him is there's a trait in general I really like where, you know, there's players who've got really long legs that can reach further in tackles, but they manage to like win it, like sweep away with the ball and then stay on their feet or bounce back up quickly and carry on with the ball. And he's got that about him. Like he can, like, one of the things I say of like, if you've got a really good reach with your legs, but you can remain powerful because you've got the core strength and the balance, he's got that. And that's why he's someone he will excel as a wide area defender.
Yeah. I hear you. And you know, when you talk about wide defending, one of the things that popped into my mind was whenever we've gone for a man-to-man press on Liverpool, for example, and we've had Gabriel up against Salah.
Yeah. And
some people, they'll go, well, that's suicide. Why would you go 3v3 on Liverpool's, attack? But it's because of the quality. I honestly think you're better off doing that than having a full v3, but one of those players is Zinchenko or Kivior at left back or something like that,
exactly.
who doesn't have the same quality defending wide areas. And I think that's very important because we do go man for man and you do get pressed and pulled all over the pitch. So you have to be really good at dealing with things on your own. If you're playing Arsenal centre-back, it really annoys when rivals get lazy and go, yeah, but of course Arsenal's defence is good because look at Arsenal's shape and the way they park the bus and the centre-backs are protected. Trust me, Gabriel and Saliba are not protected. Okay, they are, but they have to do a lot of work just themselves.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Mosquera's got what it might take to do that.
Yeah, especially the certain games where we dominate with the ball. So the type of chances they have to deal with, it's like 2v2s a lot of the time, or something like that, where they'll quickly counter and there's loads of space for the attackers to run into. And you think of like the goals that we conceded a lot last season and the year before, like think about the games against Villa or Brentford, like Watkins and Wemmer, like the type of goals that they would score on transition. That's the type of chances that our defenders need to be good at defending, because they might at times only have one or two big chances to deal with, but you've got to be good at defending that space. And I think he'll work really well at that. One other point, just wanted to mention, because you mentioned Kiwior, it made me think he actually suits playing with someone like Kiwior really well. I think his style, they would complement each other really nicely. I know I've said Kiwior's probably going to be off, but I think Calafiori, on the other hand, there's a difference there. They're both aggressive, but if you look at Gabriel, although he's aggressive, at times he can be the one that drops back while Saliba carries the ball. And I think you can quite easily make that where Calafiori, both of them are aggressive and Calafiori's better aerially. And then he's the one that will carry the ball. Mosquera defends deep. So you've got that combination there, which is another positive.
Honestly, Ben, like I really, people won't believe me. That popped into my mind when we were talking about him being more Gabriel. And I went, well, do we have a Saliba type of left centre-back then? And actually, Kiwior in terms of on the ball, and Calafiori in terms of sort of being a bit more of a carrier at times. There's space, he's happy to take it forward. And I just wonder, and I know it's not a nice thing because we want Saliba and Gabriel for another 7-8 years. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing, right? We want them to be our Fernand and Vidic, and we want them to lift titles and do what the great centre-back partnerships have, because I believe they can actually get there.
Yeah.
But I do think we are planning for a world in which we've got that in the next group. And I think that might be in 2-3 years' time, where maybe 4 years' time, but I think that could be where we are with Calafiori and Mosquera.
Possibly,
Which, could be a good thing. So
it's kind of, you've got a plan for that. So if it comes, if one turns around and says they want to leave and they've got a big offer somewhere, and you're at a point where, you know what, actually, or they might say, I want to leave next year, but you think, actually, we can get good money for you now, and we've got a backup ready. You can do that rather than hold on to them. You don't feel like that desperation of like, oh no, you've got to stay. There's no other option.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally
the best clubs always do that.
Totally agree. Good planning. Let's talk about Norgaard then. I watched back what we said, and we actually didn't say that much, but he had been linked once, so we thought it was worth bringing him up in the conversation around kind of Premier League players that we could turn to. There have been such a wide range of takes on a little bit like Gyökeres. There have been so many different takes on what this player actually does.
Yeah.
So here's what my research has told me before you correct me. Better on the ball than the stats show.
Yeah.
The stats are probably ruined by the fact that he plays in a Brentford side that play many styles of football, sometimes more direct, sometimes more counter-attacking. Very combative. Can cover ground, but he's not Declan Rice, important to say. And while I never saw him like this, some have said he could, in theory, cover for Rice every now and again in the left eight, but I don't really see that, but I mean, you can tell me. I think... I don't want to go into the whole, was it smart business with Partey or whatever, because ultimately the decision has been made by the club. I think everyone's had their say on it. The Partey deal didn't work for them, so Arsenal pivoted. And we recorded this a week ago, and in only a few days, Arsenal just, bam, got the replacement done.
Yeah.
But I think what's really standing out to me is that while Partey and Jorginho are still, to this day, two of the most elite players on the ball in terms of sixes in world football, I do think we've replaced them with two players that are probably better on the ball than people are giving them credit for, but who are definitely more physically imposing and actually use their body better. They don't even have to be 6'3". They don't have to have Declan Rice's range, but they just are a little bit more of what I think Arteta's maybe wanted from that sixth position. Now, the beauty of this podcast is I basically get to play some bullshit in people's heads, and then you get to clean it up and tell me, so from what I've said, what have I got right? What have I got wrong? What do you make of Christian Norgaard?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not much you said that I'm like, no, that's not. Well, I can't think of anything. There's nothing you've said that I'm like, no, that's wrong or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely.
Guys, believe in me. Comment section, believe in me now.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's. I agree completely with like the on the ball stuff. Like he's a lot better than people give him credit for, and he's the basic thing I would say he's a safe. Ready-made Premier League proven player who's a leader. He was a captain for Brentford. It's important that we added some more personalities like that and leadership in the team because we've got so many experienced players going. Even the guys like Zinchenko as well. And so it's not just Jorginho, but he's a different leader to Jorginho. Jorginho's more the calm type. They're both vocal, but Jorginho's like you bring him on to calm down a game, whereas Norgaard is up for a battle. He's
crash bang water,
yeah.
I mean,
one's
the tackles he's made. Yeah, he will get sent off next season.
He probably will. Yeah, I hope not. But knowing our record, one bad challenge and he'll be off.
He'll be gone.
Yeah, you look at the two. One's the fire and one's the ice. They're very different personalities and how in terms of how they play. But I do agree about the thing you mentioned about the thing you said you weren't sure about, but I actually think he could play as a left eight. I don't think he will a lot, but I see a lot of similarities in someone like Marino. If I was to say who in the squad is he most similar to, I think Marino.
Oh, he's our striker signing.
No, yeah. This is the thing.
We've got the striker. It's Christian Norgaard.
People are complaining about the striker. We've got a striker that didn't even realise, and he only cost 11 mil. But
unbelievable, winning it all.
Yeah, no. So reason why I'm saying is because when you look at someone like Rice, he's got a similar trait where Norgaard's got a similar trait where although he plays deeper, he chases the ball a bit and he really comes out of position to go and get the ball sometimes, which can be a weakness. But I think when you look at how Rice plays at times, that ground coverage and how he can press high from the 8 position, it works in our favour a lot and really helps us to suffocate teams.
Sure.
So I think Norgaard is someone that you could see doing that in a lower profile game, or just having another option that could do that for you, or he could partner someone else. Could work quite nicely with a Zubimendi, where he's not as physical as some of the other guys, and you add Norgaard, who's more the steel in the midfield, that's going to do that. But the reason why I say Merino is because it's the timing of runs from midfield. It's the late runs arriving late, where you allow the defence to settle, and then you join in the box when they're more standing. You've got more momentum, and then aerially he's so good as well. Again, signing another set piece threat, but he's very good in the air, which is another positive. And arriving in the box. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's going to love it. We've stacking up on all these big guys. Yeah. But once he gets this 6'5" striker, I'm sure he'll be happy. But yeah, set piece FC strikes again.
Set piece FC. So again, a little bit like with Mosquera, we want to hone in on his kind of real strengths. He's 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
Talked a little bit about kind of the chasing the ball. He clearly got legs, gets around the pitch. Is he quick, or is he just a real worthy run? Like Xhaka was never quick, but he worked hard and he got him about, you know?
Yeah. He's not slow. No, he's not like, in terms of in tight spaces, he doesn't turn like a Musiala or whatever, and he's not, the direct, really quick player either. But he's not slow. So yeah, he's a decent level in terms of like recovery pace and read it. The important thing is he reads the game quickly. So in times where he won't be as quick as the attacker, you can get ahead quickly, or he can step out in early as well.
When I say quick, I mean, obviously I'm not expecting, I'm not asking if he's Gabriel Martinelli, but I'm asking, El Neni, Rice, like they look quick to me in midfield.
Yeah,
they look like
midfielder,
yeah, exactly. And they look like they can get to players quickly and do what they've got to do. So if Norgaard's got a bit of that, then that's great. One thing that really kind of concerns me is on the ball, because we saw against PSG that the minute we had to move Rice from the left 8 so he could cover in the 6, we could bring in Merino, we did lose something in terms of controlling. And Arteta did have, to be fair, Partey could rely on in that way, and then Jorginho would come in, and really our build-up wasn't affected. At times it was improved because they just play it differently. What is Norgaard like receiving a build-up, receiving under pressure? And again, this is where you come in and tell me if I'm talking complete horseshit. I feel like Jorginho is very good at positioning himself to receive a ball in an area where he can make a difference. Whereas I think Partey was actually very good, even if he was under pressure, even if actually he wasn't receiving it in acres of space and he was in the best position. He was very good at quite innovatively coming out with a chip over a player, or a drop of the shoulder, or letting the ball run and make it to another. He was actually very skillful and a lot of guile in the way he did that. Jorginho wasn't so much that. I just think his intelligent of movement and reading of where to be and how to pull players apart was brilliant. Is that a fair way to separate how the two played the role, and which one is Norgaard more like, if anything?
Yeah, I'd probably say he's closer to a Jorginho, but they're still quite different. I think he's like efficient on the ball. He's an efficient passer. He's safe at times, but he's still progressive. But he's not like very progressive. I think Jorginho's, if you had like a scale of who progresses the ball, Partey's the most, to the point that it's detrimental to us. Like we lose the ball a lot. And then you've got a Jorginho who does a good level. There's probably quite a drop there. And then Norgaard still progresses the ball, but he might go sideways, backwards, and a bit safer at times. He passes with both feet. He's secure under pressure. Good awareness to turn. But one thing that's important as well is how a player like uses their body and uses their arms as well, because he's very physical, but he quickly will put his arm out, and if you put your arm out and keep distance between the defender, you've got a little bit more time to turn. So he's good at using that, and also scanning before he gets the ball. Then when he gets the ball under pressure, you know where the space is, you know where to turn and where to progress. He's not someone that's going to come in and completely change our build up and be like a game changing signing or anything, but it's important about having a good quality depth. He's an
Zubimendi should do that, right? I mean,
yeah,
we are hoping
yeah, he will.
will.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced he'll be like a seriously good player, and anyone that's doubted him, just wait. You'll see. Like he's got a lot of quality. And if you look at PSG, I've made a comparison a lot with Zubimendi and Vitinha. I think there's a lot of similarities there in terms of it's not just being the one to slow down the pace of the game, which someone like Jorginho and Odegaard do, but they can really speed it up as well. And he's got the perfect balance of really understanding and allowing things to keep ticking. But he can unlock, in terms of the build-up, it will help us a lot because we'll find the right balance of progressing the ball. And he's also someone that you can trust by himself on an island, which others you can't as much. He's got that awareness of scanning around and you can see the players in other positions. So it then means you can have your other midfielders higher up and they don't need to be there in the build-up. So Zubimendi, he'll be quality. And but Norgaard, he's not that. He's not that type of player. But we're not signing him to be that. So, he's someone that's going to provide depth for the 6 and probably the 8.
He's a bullish, experienced. He's a bullish, experienced player who's more technical than people are giving him credit for. Who will have his moment via a set piece or a cross into the box, or he's actually a decent strike.
He'll arrive and edge of the box first time, a goal like that. He's a proper a bit of a throwback, like a Barclays. There was the whole trend, like the Barclays man or whatever. Like he's a bit like that. Like it's a bit more of like a classic, like a safe, physical midfielder. And also one thing he's got as well is that the mean side to him a bit as well. Like not in like a horrible way or anything. I just mean like he's got that extra aggression, like in the box, or he'll do a tackle and he'll leave something on someone or something like that. And I don't know if people remember that whole thing with Martinelli where he did a bad tackle and then apologized for it. But there's definitely that as well. So we got more dark arts as well.
More dark arts coming in. If our options next season in midfield are, I'm going to work my way from like defensive midfield to attacking midfield. If they are Zubimendi, Norgaard, Lewis Skelly, Rice, Marino, Odegaard, Waneri, Eze. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I don't think you could. I mean, of course, Lewis Skelly will start as the left 8. Of course, Eze will be seen. Sorry, as the left back. Of course, Eze will be seen more as a left winger, and Waneri will probably be depth for Saka, and then that kind of leaves you with 6 players, or 5-6 players for those actual positions who will kind of stick mainly to central midfield. But I mean, my word, there's enough for Arteta to work with that. I don't want to hear that there's a lack of solutions against mid-blocks, that we're struggling to break a team down, because there's plenty there to whether you double team on one side with Waneri and Saka as a double threat, whether you move Odegaard to the left 8, whether you get Eze in the pockets if we sign him, whether you get Lewis Skelly higher up the pitch to drive us forward, whether Marino is actually just hanging in the box from left 8. I mean, there's so much you can do there. I don't want to hear excuses from anyone, because I don't know what more skill set you could possibly want in a set of midfield options. You've even got Rice's box-to-box underlapping, if you want to move him to right central midfield, which I don't think we do enough of. So
I'd love to see so much there. No, I completely agree. And I think if you can add Eze or a profile like him as another option in midfield, it's like perfect. And I would love, you have certain games where let's say hypothetically it was Eze that you put him as a left centre midfielder, you put Zubimendi as the 6, and then Odegaard as the right centre midfielder. The balance there in that midfield, in a more attacking game, you allow someone like Rice, you rest him, and there's not the need for him to play every single game. And you've got someone there where Zubimendi playing the through through the lines to Eze high up in the pockets, someone who's going to receive the ball on the half turn, quickly make space and get off shots, which Nwaneri could do as well. And I mean, that would be like the perfect depth options there.
And I love that you mentioned those three, Odegaard, Zubimendi, Eze, because if you're inverting Lewis Skelly into that midfield, you've got four proper ballers, technical players. And I watched PSG and I thought, my word, look how technical every player on that pitch is. And look, Rice is more technical than people give him credit for. And I think Mourinho is actually better at that than we saw in his first season at Arsenal. But I just don't think he ever quite got comfortable in midfield. But I think he will get there with experience and time, whatever. But that's what I want to see, like really good, like the ball being fizzed in that little box shape that we do, in the way we did in 22-23. I just think Arsenal have lacked. That's probably the word, fizz. Just some. Do you know what I mean? Some energy and bringing our step in our midfield. And Eze, Zubimendi, they will bring that. And if Norgaard has to just be a steady Eddie who does a job, I always think, basically, can your backup play 50% of Premier League games? Like, as in, is he good enough to start against 50%? In 50% of the games you're going to have in the Premier League, and my answer is yes. Norgaard can basically play home and away against everyone in the second half of the table, bottom half of the table. And then that's job done, and I think your options there look phenomenal. Yeah,
no, completely agree. Another positive with him, actually, and Mosquera as well, the availability that they've shown in the past. I mean, I was meaning to mention with Mosquera, but so out of 38 games last season, played 37, missed one. Don't know what it's from. I don't think it was a knock. It was just missed one game. It was a good job he missed it. They lost 7-1 to Barcelona. But
that's why.
Yeah, that's why, because he wasn't there. And then the 37 he played 90 minutes in all but one, and that was 80 minutes. So you're talking about someone who, even at 20 last season, played that volume of games. And then with Norgaard as well, like he's been so reliable for Brentford for so long. And they're both coming into a team that they're not going to be needed all the time like they are at their previous clubs, so they're able to rest more. But they're still going to play a good volume of games and we've got more to play than both of them, where we want to be at a point where you could make 7-8 changes in the Carabao Cup or something and still have a very strong squad that could go all the way to the final.
I didn't agree.
Like we need, having the depth is about competing on all four fronts. Like we ideally, it's not just we need a big trophy right next season. It's Premier League, Champions League. That's what we should be going for. But we have to be going further in the cups as well. We did a better job with the Carabao Cup. We went further. But the issue, obviously, we got knocked out by Man United in the FA Cup. But we should really be winning like a couple of trophies. You know, that's what these players want to do. They want to be a part of a team that dominates. You look at City winning several trophies. And that's why these signings are good, because Norgaard, you said about half of the table. You play early, you might never play the top half of the table in those cups, you know, or you might only play them towards the end. So imagine you've got a cup run. He can play like all those games, essentially. Then when you get to the last bit and you've got City in the final or something, then you've got Zubimendi and Rice for that. But I think that's important as well, and that's why we're getting these backups as well.
I couldn't agree more. Let's make up an 11, okay? Kepa in goal. White, Mosquera, Kivior, Calafiori is your back four. Norgaard, Nwaneri, Marino.
Yeah.
And a front three of, it could be Martinelli on the right, Trossard on the left, and Havertz up front. Because we're signing.
Front three is probably hard to do. It's hardest to do now because we don't know what's going on with Trossard and Martinelli and But we will have three there. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean that's sensational with Tomiyasu and Jesus to play some part in probably the second half of the season. I think that will be a needed boost in some way, because I still think they're very good players, whether they're the players to take us over the line. So that's exactly what we need. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. Yeah. I just want to come in with some really last minute news. which isn't, it's just add-ons to what we've been hearing. But Sam Dean, 8 minutes ago, aggregated by Doc, said that Mosquera is expected to cost 20 million and Norgaard deal is about 10 million. I just think when journalists are starting to talk in that way, then it feels like, I think there's a lot of confidence around people that these are going to get done.
Yeah.
And then Fabrizio Romano, aggregated by the African Gooner. By the way, I don't have particular aggregators I go to. It's just the first I see on my timeline. So thank you to all of them who are keeping us up to date with everything on the news. He says, just in from Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal had positive contacts with Eze's reps over the weekend. They are working quite strong on this one. Let's see if they decide to proceed with paying the release clause, agree with the player and Crystal Palace. I mean, there's still a lot to do, but I quite like that they're working quite strongly on this one. I don't know. In fact, this would be the last thing I want to ask you on the day. Is this Berta just running lots of different things like he has done with the striker position? Or is this genuine pushing from Arsenal to get this player?
This, which one? Eze?
Eze, yeah.
Yeah, hard to tell.
In your opinion, yeah. I mean, what's your gut feeling? What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know that's how I feel.
I'm skeptical. I think Rodrigo's the main guy that we want on the left, and I think Eze's maybe seen as a backup to him. I don't think that's right. If it is the case, I think Eze is more, like we said, is more the attacking midfielder who could play wide, and then you need a proper left winger. I think that's probably what he's more seen as a backup there, and we'll see what happens there. But until we've properly, because we've, it said all the news is about that we've approached his camp or whatever, which that will be true. Like we do that with most players. That there's a level of interest in, and it helps to negotiate for other ones. So I don't know. Let's see. I really can't decide whether this is something that's going to happen or not. And I think everyone gets too excited about this one because they really like him. So I'm like trying to be more the let's see. But yeah, like I said, I really like the player.
Yeah, my instinct, Ben, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, is the amount this has come out, the amount that's been said and we've heard about. I think that Arsenal, I've maybe got to a point where Arteta always said, remember when he said you shouldn't have to convince a player to come to Arsenal? Do you remember when he was
Yeah.
And I actually think there's a part of him that might have said behind the scenes, yeah, I do want Rodrigo, but this guy wants to be at Real Madrid, and if he does want to come to us, we're not going to know for a while. So let's do the Eze deal because he's quality, because I can get a lot out of him. And I honestly think the club are just on hand, they're on standby for a Martinelli bid from a Bayern or a club in Saudi Arabia, or a Trossard move for 20, 30 million that might come again from a Saudi club. And I think they might just be on hold to go, well, what's Rodrigo's situation? Oh, it is doable. Okay, 1 in, 1 out, and we'll have the funds to go big. I think that is why they've wanted to be quite reserved on Partey's contract, on the Norgaard signing, on the Kepa signing, even on Mosquera, man. I mean, 20 million, like that doesn't do anything for our budget. We could easily have got Hato might be 40 to 50. So yeah, that's my instinct, that actually Eze is becoming more of a... I don't think Arsenal news leaks that easily. I don't think it's kind of by accident that we hear about these things. Sometimes it does.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell because it seems like there's certain things that come out easily that we're looking at this player and they're always in the position. Like there's certain... Like if you look at Norgaard and Mosquera, they're two that just came out of the blue that they were done, basically, or that they were happening. And Kepa as well, actually. And I think those ones are like, they got wrapped up. So it's like, just get them done and then you can focus on the big deals. But then the other stuff is there's so much out there about how we're interested in, I don't know, strikers, right? There's Šeško, then there's Gyökeres, and then last week there was something to do with Ekitike, which is probably nothing because he's going to be even more expensive than the two. So there's loads of that where there's just random rumours popping out and that we're interested. The interest is not lies. Like there will be interest in these players. It's just the level of it and do we prioritise them over others? So Yeah, I think we will be interested in Eze, of course. Like, he's a quality player. Whether it happens, I have no idea. But yeah,
yeah. All right, mate. We got through a lot there.
yeah,
That was a big hour of content. I hope you've all enjoyed it in the comment section, guys. Please show your love for Ben. The Twitter handle will be in the description as always. And yeah, we had to give a real breakdown on Mosquera. Talked quite a lot about the Norgaard there too. But this essay stuff's really interesting. I'd love to know what everyone thinks in the comment section below.
Sorry.
Oh, go
on. Just the important thing with Norgaard I forgot to mention was having a stopgap of his age means you don't block the pathway of. There's a load of really good midfielders out there that we would want to be there for, whether it's Baleba or it's Adam Wharton or another Rodrigo situation with like a Camavinga or Zaire Emery, Tchouameni, these type of guys that could be available, or prospect like I mentioned before, like Bouadi, who I really like. He's not going to be available till January, so Norgaard helps with that. But yeah, it's just a point. I just
you're right.
But yeah,
I agree. Totally completely agree with that. Guys, show some love in the comments. Apologies, the podcast has been coming. Look, it's going to be a Monday or a Tuesday. Okay, we're busy people. It's summer. We will try and be as consistent as possible. But actually, to be fair, it's working quite well with all the transfer rumors that come out on a Monday. So it's probably going to be Tuesdays more regularly. But we will do our best to make it work as consistently as possible. But big thanks to Ben. You've been fantastic. 5 episodes in already. I'm having a blast. Hope everyone in the comments is enjoying it too. Thank you to all of you for 10,000 subscribers on the Goonerverse too. If you haven't subscribed, I think we'll put the link here in the end card. And yeah, that's just where I'm reacting to the news instantly before we go into it in depth here. More to come on the Goonerverse. It's been slightly dormant, the channel. I mean, we have been uploading the podcast and doing some bits and bobs, but I have been enjoying the time off football, guys, if I can really be honest. And I'm not going to force content for the sake of it. So I hope you guys are enjoying what's coming out, but there will be more as Arsenal start to kick a ball again, which, yeah, I mean, you're watching this on July 1st. So this month, Arsenal play football, and that's exciting. So, yeah, big thanks, Ben. Big thanks to everyone tuning in, and we'll catch you all in a bit.